I'm Luna, the real daughter who was left on her own. My biological parents showed up with Helen, the girl who took over my life for 17 years. At the time I was in a club, decked out in some spicy outfit, desperately trying to energize the crowd. The emotions in their eyes were all over the place. Instinctively, they held on tight to the quiet and pretty girl beside them. Just 30 minutes ago I was scraping by doing club gigs. 30 minutes later, I was the real daughter of Mark, the city's richest guy, swapped at birth. In the room four people sat neatly. They surrounded a girl who looked like a princess. A lady, all elegant and poised, was teary-eyed as she tried to keep it together and asked cautiously, "Are you Luna, 17 years old, living in West Village?" I pushed too hard tonight, my throat was sore. The manager better cough up more cash. The lady couldn't hold back anymore and threw her arms around me, sobbing uncontrollably. "My poor child, I'm your mom, your real mom. I won't ever lose you again." I felt a bit out of sorts, glancing around in confusion. A serious-looking man took off his glasses, pressing his eyes. I clenched my fists, letting her cry it out. A younger man walked over, helped the woman up, sized me up with a not-so-happy look, but still hustled us to sit on the sofa. He told me he was Ben, my brother. No doubt the other guy was my rich dad. The girl who'd been the center of attention looked at me and took a step back, covering her mouth. I squinted, frowning a bit. My rich dad hurried over, whispering something softly to her. That woman, who was a mess of tears a moment ago, let go of me, turned around and hugged the girl with pity, saying to me, "Helen is allergic to alcohol, Luna. Have you been drinking?" I shook my head but probably carried a slight whiff of booze. My real brother immediately yanked me up, practically shoving me to the door like I was contagious. "Luna, you're a student. Don't dress like a hostess. And stay away from alcohol. It's bad for Helen." I shrugged his hand off, stared at Helen, and asked in a raspy voice, "So she's been living the high life as the fake princess for 17 years? They were all taken aback, guilt washing over them. Helen especially kept her eyes down, not saying a word. My rich dad quickly chimed in, "This isn't Helen's fault. Blame your adoptive mom. She was a nurse at the maternal hospital. She swapped you and Helen on the sly, with her twisted mind." Helen bit her lip and flushed at her biological mom being talked down like that, tears streaming down her face. "Dad." Ben shot him a look. My rich dad realized he slipped up and shut his mouth. Helen twisted her hands, her face uneasy, eyes welling, and asked carefully, "Mom, Dad, now that you found my sister, do you still want me?" My real mom hugged her, soothing her like a child, softly saying, "Don't be silly, Helen. You'll always be our sweet little girl. And my favorite little sidekick." Ben ruffled her hair. Helen wiped her tears and nestled into my mom, grinning. Such a perfect family picture. All warm and fuzzy. Guess I'm the odd one out. But hey, after all these years, it doesn't matter to me. Helen gave me a little smirk, a bit cocky with a hint of challenge. Oh, fun. She's got that same look her mom had. They plan to take me home tonight. My manager, who'd been eavesdropping, sidled over, handing me a bottle of water. "So the richest guy's your dad, huh? You don't look too thrilled." I gulped down some water to soothe my parched throat, sidestepping his comment. "Hey boss, can we wrap up today's pay?" His eyes bugged out. "You're the rich guy's daughter and you still care about this little money?" I raised my palms, flashing him a toothy grin. "I deserve it, don't I?" I was about to hit the dressing room, but Ben dragged me to the family van. This outfit was borrowed from the DJ girl, supposed to give it back tonight. Whatever, my throat hurts. Not in the mood to explain. My real dad, mom, and brother gathered around Helen like she was some endangered species, sitting as far from me as possible. I gave them one look, then turned to the window, feeling all cool and aloof. My mom shot me an awkward smile, trying to comfort me. "Luna, your sister has an alcohol allergy. Since she was born, there's been no booze in our house. Try not to mind, okay?" I cleared my throat, casually replying, "Flowers in greenhouses are delicate. Not like me, a wild child. I'd break a leg and no one would care. I only made it this far because I'm tough and got lucky meeting someone as kind-hearted as Kate." "Lucky, huh? Getting found by a rich family isn't good." I gave a wry smile and everyone went silent. Helen, getting the royal treatment, finally spoke, her voice quivering. "Sister Luna, I'm so sorry. It's my fault you ended up like this." Why is she crying again? Are those tear ducts on her face fountains? I yanked off the pink wig, ruffling my short hair, and grumbled, "Please stop crying like you lost your real mom. Someone might think it's you who suffered. Those crocodile tears won't make up for 17 years of wrongs by your real mom. Want to say sorry? Show some sincerity. I'll make it easy. Swap places with your mom for a year. Okay? Do that, and I'll forgive you right away." Helen instantly stopped sobbing, trembling and clutching my parents' hands, shaking her head vigorously. My rich dad rubbed his temples, looking defeated. My real mom patted Helen's back comfortingly, finally saying, "Luna will do everything to make it up to you. But the switch wasn't Helen's fault. Please don't take it out on her. Helen is pretty soft-hearted, simple and kind. Whenever she apologizes, she means it. Can you just not be mad at her for the sake of mom and dad? She'll be a good little sister to you." I widened my eyes. Am I the one mad at her? She's practically asking for trouble all the time. My brother, who's never really liked me, took a deep breath, turned off his phone he'd been fiddling with since we got in the car, and looked at me seriously. "Luna, watch your words. We're all happy you've returned to the family, and we can be one big happy family. I believe things will be good now that you're back, so can you stop picking on Helen? Also, you should stop going to those nightclubs and bars. Mom and dad are prominent people, and you're now a wealthy heiress. You should act like it. Helen's doing things right by learning painting and piano, attending business gatherings. It'll seriously benefit your future. She's great in all areas, and you can ask her for help if you need it." Both my biological parents nodded along, looking at Helen like she was some kind of treasure. Helen quickly forgot the earlier unpleasantness after a bit of praise and looked at me with her wide, innocent eyes, giving me this lecture. "Sis, everything our brother is saying is for your own good. Those bars are not places for decent people to hang out. If you want to listen to music, I can play the piano for you. Bar music is just loud and tacky. It'll bring you down." She seemed all earnest on the surface, like she was really looking out for me. But honestly, she was just insulting me, calling me indecent and tacky. Does she genuinely think I go there just to listen and dance? She's so naive, like she's never had any real struggles. I slapped the $130 paycheck I just got down on the armrest of the couch. If your mom was a bit kinder to me, I wouldn't be working such late hours in bars as a minor girl. I picked up the money, put it in my pocket and laughed. This is my week's living expenses. Gotta stash it before that crazy woman snatches it. Helen's face turned pale, losing her superior air. Everyone fell silent. I curled my lip with disdain. Like they're the only ones who can talk. I'll endure life's tough spots, but unearned shame? I'll fight back. Especially against someone occupying my place, thinking they've done no wrong. I have to say, no wonder they're wealthy. This mansion is like a palace, but for me it's just somewhere to sleep. The maid had already set up my room. I was so tired I crashed straight to sleep after washing up. I slept until daylight. Damn, I'm gonna be late for school. I threw on my uniform, grabbed my backpack and bolted out, leaping from the second-floor stairs. The maid was so startled she froze. "Luna, breakfast time." I skidded to a halt, striking a pose like a Greek disc thrower statue. In the dining room, the whole family looked at me with these complicated expressions. Oh well, I straightened up, my spirit suddenly dampened and shuffled over. The square table had one of them on each side. The maid scrambled to bring over a chair, not sure where to place it. Helen, all polite and sensible, said, "Auntie, just put it between Mom and me." My birth mom shot her a proud look, while my wealthy dad and Ben nodded approvingly. Helen set up my place setting. It had stuff I'd never had, like a Western breakfast. "Sis, Mom made all this for you. Make sure to eat up. These are things you don't usually get to eat, right?" I slouched back in the chair, raising a hand. "Auntie, can I get some chopsticks, please?" I turned to Helen and said, "Yeah, your mom's always at the poker table, either hitting or yelling at me. I've begged for food, fed pigs, survived on charity. A huge stroke of luck I didn't die of hunger." Helen bit her lip, looking at me with hatred in her eyes. I notice whenever I mention Helen's mom, she shuts up really quickly. I caught a glimpse of some pity in my real mom's eyes as she handed me a debit card and a new phone. "Luna, there's $100,000 on this card. That's your pocket money for the month. The phone has all our family contacts." I nodded, putting the card and phone in my backpack. Wealthy Dad continued like he was chairing a meeting, listing 3 things: changing my name, transferring schools, and setting up a party to celebrate my return. The name they picked for me, Lucy. They hoped it'll bring peace and growth, that I'll be open-hearted and easygoing. I'm okay with most things but not transferring schools. With college entrance exams coming up, a switch would mess me up big time. Are you worried about keeping up in a new school? Don't worry, I'm top of my class. I can help you catch up. I focused on eating rather than responding to her. Living far from school, I needed to save time, but I did note Helen's offer for the record. They arranged for a private driver for my school runs. Word got out at school that I was the richest man's daughter. My classmates were starry-eyed around me. Luna, how lucky can you get? Great grades and rich parents. Luna, don't forget the little people if you get rich. Hand over your homework. Let me copy it. Luna, are you leaving here? Will we stop seeing you? I kept shooing their curious little heads away. I'm staying until the exams, and if I leave it's because of college. That house wasn't what I had hoped for. The bell rang. It was time for our second major provincial exam. I needed to give this my all, make up for life setbacks. After school, I asked the driver to take me back to my old place and waited from afar. Inside, I heard the rattling of mahjong tiles, mixed with the swearing of men and women. Through a slit in the windowsill, I saw Jennifer with a cigarette in her mouth, her bloated, sagging face clouded in smoke. Her shifty eyes were fixed on the table. She expertly handled the tiles, slamming them on the table with a curse, spitting like she was sick. I turned and went to Kate's next door. Kate became a widow young, never remarried, and had no kids. She treated me like her own granddaughter. When I was little, Jennifer wouldn't let me eat. It was Kate who saved her own meager living to give me some food. I stubbornly refused to take it, so she had me help her feed the pigs in exchange. Feeding pigs once could get me a bowl of rice. It was the happiest thing in my childhood. Later, Kate took me to collect scraps and sell recycled goods. She'd tell me which junkyard would pay 2 more cents per pound. My foster mom, Jennifer, would lose at cards and take her anger out on me, hitting hard and rough. When I was 12, I followed her to the city, got caught, and she broke my leg with a stick as thick as an arm. She then just left me there and went back to playing mahjong. It was Kate who used all her savings from collecting scraps to carry me 10 miles to the clinic to fix my leg. Though my leg healed, a long, ugly scar remained. But I didn't care. Since one more scar didn't make a difference on my broken body, I thought sticking with Kate all my life could still be happiness. But not too long ago, Kate got sick. She needed a lot of money. Looking at our little savings, I felt frustrated. So I made a deal with a big shot from the streets. I let the word out that I was the daughter mistakenly swapped at birth. Whether they took me back or not, they'd give him a decent reward for saving face. Indeed, the monthly allowance of a rich daughter solved my pressing need. Ignoring Kate's protests, I picked up her frail body and walked toward the driver. I brought Kate to the hospital. I asked a nurse to find a caregiver for her before I returned to the mansion. They threw a grand party to celebrate my return home on the weekend. Besides relatives and friends, nearly all the city's VIPs showed up. The villa was brightly lit and bustling. Helen wore an all-white designer princess dress and was chatting happily with a bunch of her peers. I, on the other hand, chose a black gown, wrapping myself up completely. When my birth mom led me down the spiral staircase, all eyes fell on me. Experienced socialites praised how much I resembled my mom with my beauty, matching perfectly. It was unmistakable. I was their blood. The words blood daughter stung Helen sharply, making her feel insecure. Those compliments used to be hers. She stared at me coldly, like seeing an enemy about to claim her spotlight. Our eyes clashed in mid-air. I neither dodged nor flinched. Right off the stairs, Helen switched to a meek, obedient look, rounding up her friends. She held my hand, humbly introducing me to the wealthy crowd. The lower she bowed, the more they looked at me with disdain. A girl with a Barbie-like face giggled, "Helen, is this your bumpkin sister? She's so covered up, isn't she scared she'll get heat rash?" The rich kids burst into laughter, staring at me. Quickly, Helen gently defused the situation. "Don't say that about my sister. It's her first fancy event. How could she know so much? Oh right, I heard she once fed pigs. Do y'all think she smells like pig dung?" They all stepped a meter away and laughed again. With a smirk I said, "Hey, you over there." The plastic surgery girl, laughing hard, looked at me with her hand over her mouth. "What? You're so rude, total bumpkin from the sticks." I snickered, "Your nose is crooked." Alarmed, she quickly touched her nose and looked closely in a mirror. When she realized I'd been teasing her, she was furious and wanted to hit me. I shrugged, swinging my head from side to side, cracked my knuckles and said unperturbed, "I never said it's crooked now, but it might be soon." She froze, not daring to move. Helen emerged at the right moment to defend me. "Don't mind my sister. She grew up in the countryside, wild and rough, loves to mess around." The plastic surgery girl whined, clinging to Helen's arm. "Helen's so kind. Top of her class with a 685 in the latest state exam, ranking first. Wonder where your sister stands in her grade, haha." She even gave me a dismissive glance. I clicked my tongue. "You can check for yourself, the rankings are public after all." A rich kid sneered. "I checked the top 100, didn't see her. Bet she's not even in the top 500. Proudly, Helen lifted her head. "My sister may not do well in school, but I promise to tutor her. Y'all don't laugh at her." I reminded kindly, "My original name is Luna. Maybe double check?" Silence for 2 seconds, then shock froze them. "Luna? The second in the whole state?" Helen's smile instantly disappeared, disbelief shading over her face as she grabbed the phone in a huff, her breath unsteady, eyes widening. I laughed inside. What a bunch of idiots with noses in the air. After a while, Helen composed herself, twitching at the mouth. "Wow, my sister really kept that under wraps, huh?" She pulled out a gift box, trying for a topic change, smiling sweetly at me. "Sister, this is a gift I handpicked for you. Hope you like it." I knew it was pricey, probably useless to me, except to humiliate the country bumpkin at events like this. So I didn't take it. I knew Helen's weak spot and remembered her good grace last time. So I stared at the box and repaid her kindly. "How about giving this gift to your birth mom? She could turn it into cash, probably stay in the card room for a week." Helen's face turned crimson, tears ready to spill. "Sister, I meant well, why demean me?" I raised an eyebrow. "Meant well, huh? Whatever I need, Mom and Dad will provide. You should focus on repaying your real mom. After all, she worked so hard to provide you this lavish life. Don't be an ingrate." Using real mom every sentence, Helen just wanted to dig a hole and hide in it out of embarrassment. A tall and strong guy looked at Helen with a pitying expression. He stood up, grabbed my collar and looked down at me. "You better apologize to Helen. I don't care if you're a rich man's daughter. I'm not gonna be nice. You're so eager to stand up for Helen. Do you like her? What do you like about her? Should I go talk to my parents for you, maybe arrange an engagement or something? They'll agree to whatever I say right now." Helen was furious. "Lucy, that's enough. What nonsense are you talking?" I shrugged. With that kind of smarts, she wants to take me on? I pried each of the big guy's fingers off me, nonchalantly saying, "See, she doesn't agree." The big guy was so ashamed he yanked my sleeve and pushed me away, with such force that it ripped the sleeve off my fancy, flashy gown. I staggered back a few steps and crashed into a row of drink tables, sending crystal cups filled with various juices crashing to the floor. My dress was soaked as I lay on the floor. I casually ripped the floor-length gown into a short dress, revealing the ugly scars I'd been carefully hiding. Apart from my face and neck, there wasn't a palm-sized area of undamaged skin on my whole body. The hall burst into shocked whispers. How does someone so young have such terrifying scars? I raised an eyebrow and glanced at Helen, smiling triumphantly. My real mom couldn't hold back her tears and hugged me tightly. "My daughter, how much have you suffered?" Ben looked utterly shocked, and my rich dad's brows were furrowed so deep a mosquito could get crushed between them. I patted my real mom's back and handed her over to Ben. I hadn't planned on bringing it up, but since things were already this way, I figured I'd seize the opportunity at today's party to ask my parents to sue Jennifer. The scars on my body are all the evidence we need. Also, I can recount the origin of every single scar. This one, Jennifer hit me with an ashtray after losing at cards. This big one, Jennifer set her dog on me. And the one on my leg stitched 18 times, Jennifer broke my leg with a stick. And then this one, most of these prestigious people here had heard a bit of my story, but none knew the full extent. Looking at my shocking scars, sympathy rained down toward me, their eyes daggers stabbing Helen behind me. Inhuman. What kind of beast would be so cruel to a child? Truly a monster. Doesn't deserve to be human. She has to face legal punishment. I can't watch, it's too tragic. Can't believe how this young girl endured it. My rich dad stepped forward from the crowd, looking guilty. "Lucy, that's enough. I obediently went quiet. I didn't want to dwell on those terrible memories either. Remembering them feels like being tortured all over again. This is probably the last time I bring them up. The butler timely escorted the guests out. It was time to discuss the matter behind closed doors. To my surprise, they unanimously decided not to press charges against Jennifer. My rich dad was the first to speak. Lucy will compensate you for your suffering, but as for suing Jennifer, let's just forget it. My heart sank halfway down. I turned to my real mom. Is that what you think too? Her eyes still red from crying earlier. My mom nodded with clenched teeth. Lucy, some things take time to settle. Jennifer will pay for what she's done eventually, but please don't make it harder for us and Helen, okay? I slumped onto the sofa with a bitter smile. Could I know why? All three of them cast sympathetic, pained looks at Helen. Ben, who had been silent, finally sat next to me and said earnestly, Lucy, if we sue Jennifer, she'll definitely go to jail, and that will ruin Helen's future. We watched Helen grow up. She's considerate, filial, and smart. We can't stand to see her future destroyed because of her vile mother. We will love you twice as much from now on. Can you understand the good intentions of your parents and brother? Faced with such moral coercion, I found myself speechless. I wasn't hurt by their love for Helen. I wasn't hurt when they criticized me. But when they refused to hold the abuser accountable after exposing my survival scars, I was crushed. I stood up weakly, letting out a soft hum. I get it, but I still need to remind you all. I fought people, battled dogs for food, and I don't have the best temperament, so keep an eye on Helen. As long as she doesn't come for me first, I won't be bothering anyone. As for Jennifer, I need her to pay. If you're not willing, I'll handle it myself. With college entrance exams approaching, I needed to focus and rely on myself to break free from this prison of darkness. Every day before returning to the villa, I visited Kate. Thank goodness her surgery went well, and she's in good hands with the caregivers. Back at the villa, aside from meals, I spent most of my time in my room studying. On another weekend, my real mom, dad, and brother were invited to a party, leaving me and Helen at home alone. Around 8 p.m., I got thirsty and headed downstairs for a drink. As I was on my way back up, Helen stopped me. Lucy, hold up. Ever since our family's last meeting, where they sided with her and decided not to pursue Jennifer, Helen didn't even try to hide in front of me anymore. She stopped the tears and self-pity. Now she spoke to me like a spoiled heiress. I rolled my eyes at her and headed straight for my room. Just then the housekeeper passed by downstairs, and Helen switched her tone completely. Sister, can we chat since Mom and Dad aren't home? If I left harshly now, the family would hear about it, and I'd get scolded for being rude again. Besides, I was curious about what scheme she might have cooked up after all these weeks. I snapped my fingers toward the housekeeper downstairs, who acknowledged me with a nod. Auntie, could you come up for a second? The housekeeper came up and stood against the wall, right between me and Helen. I smiled slightly. Auntie, I need you as a witness. I wouldn't want someone claiming I pushed them down the stairs after they stumble on their own. Auntie looked stunned, staring at us with a face full of confusion. Helen looked like a guilty thief caught in the act, her face changing colors rapidly. I chuckled. All right, spit it out. What do you want to talk about? Helen glared at the nanny irritably. Auntie, stand over there. I need to have a private chat with my sister. Auntie only moved back when I nodded. Helen flashed a triumphant smile. Sis, what school are you aiming for? So I can avoid it and not end up at the same one as you. No worries, the school I'm going for is beyond your reach, I replied. Helen's face fell, her tone icy. Lucy, what's the big deal about good grades? Dad doesn't care, Mom doesn't love you. You're their real daughter, yet they treat me, the switched at birth one, better. Her words stung and I glared at her, angry. Helen seized the moment. Lucy, let me tell you something, but you can't tell Mom. Seeing me speechless with rage, she continued with glee. You know Dad knows about you, right? He just doesn't want you back. No, why? I gritted my teeth. What are you talking about? Because he knows you've been ruined by your environment, too far gone to fix. Better to abandon you completely. Every word hit where it hurt. Furious, I threw the glass of water at her face. She looked up with a sinister grin that gave me chills. Gotcha, she whispered triumphantly. Helen then collapsed to the floor, covering her face, rolling and yelling my face. Help! Help! Sis, why did you throw wine at me? You know I'm allergic. Call an ambulance. Family members attending the party rushed in, seeing everything. Ben sprinted over and picked her up. Her hands lowered to reveal a face full of red rashes. Our wealthy dad showed up, demanding to know what happened from the nanny. The nanny didn't hear our words, only saw me splash water on Helen. Our dad snatched the glass from me, sniffing it, glaring, "Why does it smell like alcohol?" Before I could explain, he slapped me hard, shattering the glass. And my heart shattered too. My head turned, tasting a trace of blood. He shouted at me, furious, "You really are too far gone. I should have never brought you back." I took a couple of seconds to process Helen wasn't lying earlier. My mom cried her heart out, more upset than when she saw my injuries. "Lucy, how could you be so cruel? Didn't we teach you manners? Did you only learn Jen's evil ways?" Ben glared daggers at me, as if wishing to stab me, and carried Helen to the hospital. The once noisy mansion fell eerily silent. So the glass was tampered with, I realized. Watching the drama end, I quietly laughed. Helen provoked me to throw water on her. I just gave her what she wanted. She must think her plan was flawless, winning another round, maybe even kicking me out. But how does she know it's not me outsmarting her? I've got a big surprise for them. The next day, I went to school as usual, but even the driver looked at me resentfully. Helen's good at school, well-mannered, always humbly asking our brother for help. It satisfies his vanity and fulfills our parents' good child expectations, so they all like her. Even the household staff likes her. If her pretense gets exposed, would they still support her? I really want to see that. It'll be interesting. That evening, I visited Kate as usual, even wanting to stay overnight at the hospital. That house just suffocates me. Kate didn't know the details, only that I found my rich parents, and now I can live a stable life. Talking about it, tears glistened in her eyes. "Finally, you won't suffer, honey. Granny's happy for you." Holding her hand, I whispered, "Granny, once I get into college, I'll take you with me. I'll take care of you." Kate beamed, pushing me to go back. Returning to the mansion, the family sat in the living room with solemn faces, waiting, it seemed. Wealthy Dad saw me come in and sternly ordered the butler, "Bring the family discipline." The butler respectfully presented a reddish-brown short whip. I was momentarily stunned as Ben forced me onto my knees. Wealthy Dad's expression was stern. "Lucy, do you realize your mistake? I did nothing wrong. You're no different from that beast Jennifer. Beat her." The butler muttered an apology before lashing my back. I gritted my teeth, stifling a cry, feeling as if my back were splitting open. After a few breaths, I steadied. "I didn't do anything wrong. It was water. Ask Helen why there was wine." My mom knelt beside me, sobbing, "Lucy, just give in to your father and apologize to Helen. Please let this be over. I did nothing wrong. Continue." I kept my teeth clenched, not making a sound, but couldn't endure the scorching pain and fell to the floor. Breathing heavily, whispering, "Is this what you call loving me twice as much?" Wealthy Dad crouched in front of me, eyes cold, apologized to Helen before continuing school. "You're lucky Helen's out of danger, or God help me." He left without looking back. Ben didn't spare me a second glance, following Dad upstairs to Helen's room. My mom lifted me onto the sofa, instructing the nanny to apply medicine, and left in tears. I planned to give them my surprise after the college entrance exam, but clearly they couldn't wait. I sat on the couch through the night, watching my family assist Helen downstairs for breakfast, ignoring me. I dragged myself to the table, resignedly telling Dad, "Dad, I admit I was wrong." Dad remained cold, apologized to Helen. "I know I've thought it through. If I'm going to apologize, I gotta do it sincerely. I'm thinking about holding a press conference in Dad's name to properly apologize to my sister Helen. I want to praise her for being so forgiving and big-hearted. At the same time, I'll show everyone my resolve to get along well with her and everyone else from now on." I was speaking so sincerely, I almost moved myself to tears. Rich Dad gave me a shocked look but eventually nodded. He said that an heiress being officially recognized is a big deal. Only the people at the last party know about it, so we should make it public with a press conference. It'd be great for the company's image too. My biological mom pulled me down to sit next to her, smiling. She said that's her good daughter. Helen gave me a smug look, clearly feeling triumphant. Upon Helen's request, the press conference was set for the second day after she recovered, and there were just 10 days left until the college entrance exams. On the day, the conference room was jam-packed with reporters and wannabe influencers trying to catch the wave. The meeting was hosted by Ben. My real mom and dad sat in the audience, all smiles. Helen sat on the stage, waving to the reporters, posing for the cameras. I stood beside her, my face blank, eyes fixed on the conference room door. Only when I saw the familiar, shaky figure of Jennifer did I breathe a sigh of relief. Since everyone was here, I signaled it was time to start. Ben went on with his formal speak, ending up talking for half an hour just to get to today's topic. He handed me the microphone and sat with our parents. Taking a deep breath, I looked into my bio parents' hopeful eyes and began. Hello everyone, friends from the media, guests. Good morning. Today, the family reunion might be small news compared to the need to apologize to my sister, who's enjoyed 17 years of prosperity in my place. You all know we were switched at birth, right? Flashes from cameras lit up the room, focusing on me and Helen. So why apologize? Because I knew my dear sister was allergic to alcohol, but I still splashed some on her, almost causing her serious harm. There were gasps from the crowd. My dad already used the family disciplinary measures on me. I continued, noticing Rich Dad's face turning pale. Of course, it's not that he doesn't love me. He just can't stand to see the girl who replaced me suffer any discomfort. An awkward silence followed. Just kidding, I added to ease the tension, watching the mood lighten back up. My dad simply doesn't love me, I suppose. The crowd's laughter halted again, tension looming over us like a cloud. Back to the point, I said, I'll officially start now. But first, to muster some courage, give me 10 seconds. I picked up a bottle of whiskey I'd stashed away, opening it on stage. I'll take a sip to steady my nerves, as it's my first time doing something like this. The family's expressions twisted into shock and worry. I stood in front of Helen, solemnly said, Helen, it was wrong for me to splash diluted liquor on you last time, so I apologize. I'm sorry. Helen held her head high, seemingly ready to accept my surrender. But I didn't give her the chance to speak. So this time I'll use undiluted liquor. Try it. Ignoring my family's protests, I raised my hand and poured the entire bottle over Helen's head. Helen screamed and chaos erupted. My rich dad yelled to call an ambulance, disregarding dignity. Everyone was in a frenzy. Watching the madness unfold, I laughed and said calmly into the mic, Dad, you've been tricked by Jennifer. See, your precious daughter is right there, totally fine. Helen stayed frozen in her seat. No allergic reaction coming. My family stared at her, disbelief stretching moments into eternity. In case they didn't get it, I explained. Helen isn't allergic to alcohol at all. Last time she faked it all to frame me. With Helen unable to defend herself, the room buzzed with shock. Who knew she was so conniving at such a young age, willing to risk herself to harm others? Scary, isn't it? Imagine someone like that in the real world, a dangerous liability. Here we thought this rich family was upstanding. Turns out they raised someone so nasty. Overwhelmed by the backlash, my family was humiliated. Probably the most embarrassing moment for them. Helen turned white as a sheet, tears spilling as she couldn't face the accusing stares and mocking words. Ben asked with difficulty, Helen, did you really set up Lucy? Why? Rich Dad rushed to her, shaking Helen's shoulders. Why weren't you allergic? How come? Watching their ridiculous performances, I just felt disgusted. Jennifer made up this excuse to fool you, playing on your sympathy to choose to raise Helen. Weak people need extra care, right, Dad? Rich Dad's gaze switched between Helen and me, suddenly losing it, yelling, Liars, all liars. Shaking, Helen whispered, No, it's not like that, it's not. My real mom finally sensed something was wrong, panic in her eyes. Lucy, what do you mean? Her gaze shifted to Mark. Did you meet Jennifer again? What do you have to say? I started feeling a bit sorry for my bio mom. My dear mom, Helen is actually Dad and Jennifer's daughter, right, Jennifer? Following my gaze, everyone turned to see Jennifer standing at the door. Her face was worn and bloated, eyes sinister. You framed my daughter, I'll kill you, you bastard. Jennifer hissed through clenched teeth, lifting a chair towards me. She must have thought she could pull her usual crap here. Before she reached me, security swiftly detained her. You bitch, you lured me here on purpose. You ruined Helen, you won't die well. Everyone was shocked by the explosive news. They paused for a moment, then started pointing their cameras at Rich Dad and Jennifer, asking them to comment. Usually composed, Rich Dad kept losing his cool. He angrily shoved reporters, shouting for people to back off. Even the elegant mom lost her dignity, going wild, hitting and tearing at Rich Dad. Ben ditched his gentlemanly ways and violently threw Helen to the ground, turning the scene into chaos. The feeling of misplaced affection, the feeling of being deceived and played, the feelings of guilt and remorse, none of them feel good, right? I equally looked down on every one of them. When the reporters got nothing out of the main people involved, they turned to me. So while chaos unfolded, I told my journalist friends a story. Since I can remember, Jennifer would go to the city once a year. And every time she came back, she'd beat me and wouldn't let me call her mom. I didn't know why back then. But now I get it. She must have seen her daughter, Helen, getting close to my real mom. She got jealous and angry. When I was 12, I followed her to the city. I saw her holding a little girl, smiling lovingly. That's when I realized she wasn't always cruel just to me. Standing next to her was a man, Rich Dad, when he was younger. Jennifer told him she took good care of me, so he didn't worry further. But on the way back, Jennifer found me. She dragged me home and broke my leg. After that, she never went back to the city. She didn't work and played cards every day. I think that man gave her money. She claimed she took good care of me, but she never gave me a penny. A doubt crept into my young mind. This woman might not be my mom. That man could be my dad. I worked hard collecting trash, recycling, washing dishes, and waited tables to save money. Secretly, I had a paternity test done. When I got the results, I was over the moon. Jennifer really wasn't my mom. A real mom wouldn't abuse her child. As for why Jennifer got pregnant with my dad's child, I have no clue. I finished my story with indifference, looking up to see a few reporters wiping their tears. Major news outlets and online short videos scrambled to cover the scandal and drama in the richest family. Overnight, the affluent family became infamous. My parents got divorced and became strangers. Because Rich Dad's actions harmed the company's reputation and seriously affected its interests, several shareholders teamed up to kick him out. All his assets went to covering the company's losses. As a result, Rich Dad was left with nothing. Broke Dad's personality changed drastically. He became very violent and would hit Helen at the slightest thing, cursing her for being a jinx as they left the villa. Jennifer was sued by my real mom and probably won't ever touch a mahjong tile again, which must hurt more than death for her. Later, I got into my dream college. Helen didn't even take the college entrance exams. I moved out of the villa and found a quiet spot to live with Kate. Before school started, my real mom and brother came to apologize and invited me back home several times, but I refused. A broken crystal glass can't be mended, and neither can a broken heart. Real mom cried nonstop. Knowing she couldn't make up for it, she just kept depositing money in my bank account. I accepted it without guilt. Besides normal expenses, I didn't spend extravagantly. When I graduate and get a job, I'll return the only connection we have. We'll owe each other nothing. On the first day of school, with Kate and a few bags, I happily headed to the train station, ready for a new life of my own. Keep going, never stop. I believe my future will be bright. The end.